This is one of the biggest demonstrations I've seen.
This is, I think, the biggest protest in Jerusalem.
אני רוצה לספר על רגע מיוחד בלב עזה, ולברך שהחיינו על הזכות להגן על עמנו בארצנו.
My name is Ayala. I live nearby Jerusalem.
ראיתי את אחיי לנשק, לוחמים בסדיר ובמילואים שלחמו, למדו והתפללו בצניעות ובאהבה. ראיתי במילואים שוב ושוב אהבת התורה וקידוש השם, ויעידו רבים כמה כבוד והערכה יש למסורת בצבא.
They said we are a country with 4 tribes. I think there are more. And we have to find a way to live together and to have basic assumptions about how we want to live here and what country is it going to be.
אנחנו רק צריכות לדמיין ומהאסון של 7 באוקטובר, אבל זה אפשרי, זה מונח בקצות אצבעותינו. זה ייקח לנו זמן רב, אולי אפילו דור.
And especially when women are talking, it's like a Jewish mother from Israel is talking. You're not going to it tears at the heart and a lot of pain, a lot of sadness here. So over here you have the demonstration, the anti-government demonstration.
אבי מעוז, בעד. צבי ידידיה סוכות. צבי ידידיה סוכות, בעד.
And that leading us to a disaster which we didn't imagine that we can experience in all the 75 years of this state. People the chance to vote again.
שלמה קרעי, שמחה רוטמן, בנימין נתניהו.
Democratic, a Jewish democratic, with a place and rights to everyone who live here.
One thing for sure you have is decency on both sides, but it seems like things are cooking up.
Since October 7th, I think we are getting to a point which something will happen. It's important to have an influence now, right now.
כולנו, זה הערך היהודי והאוניברסלי הבסיסי ביותר, שחיי אדם הם מעל הכל. איך נתנו לאנשים אפלים לקחת את הערך המקודש הזה, לרמוס ולהרוס אותו? לא עוד.
תחשוף אותי על איך אתה עושה את זה, ומה אתה עושה ככה, ואתה לי כלים. זה באמת אור בעיניים כזה ברק, שממש רוצה ללמוד וממש מאמין שמסוגל.
Part of the tragedy of October 7th is that, as bad as what's happened and what's happening, is that the lack of leadership in Israel. Because when terrible things happen, you need leadership to console and to lead. And in this case, whether you agree with whoever's in the government or not, it's the lack of leadership.
And of course, to find a solution for the Palestinian people. That's what we have to do.
של התקווה, אנחנו כאן כולנו הערב עם תקווה אדירה בליבנו. התקווה שהממשלה הזאת
תוכל לשים את הילדים שלה לישון בשקט ולדעת שהיא בטוחה, שאף איום מלמעלה או מלמטה לא מאיים עליה, שאנחנו אוחזים ברצועת הביטחון שלנו.
ערב טוב. לאחרונה השלמתי 120 ימי מילואים בגדוד שריון, בקרוב כבר חוזר למילואים בדרום.
Demonstrations in America, demonstrations in Israel are totally different. Demonstrations in Israel are much more, even the far left is much more respectful. to people than what you see in America, which actually.
די להשתמש בנו כבשר תותחים, די לינוק מעטיני המדינה מצד אחד ולהשתמט ולהתפתל מהצד השני. די להפעלה ולהגנה. ניתן לכם להפוך את הפלא הזה שנקרא ישראל למצדה. לא ניתן! יש משהו אחד שלמדנו בשנה וחצי האחרונות. חברים, אנחנו נמצאים בשיאה של מלחמת העצמאות השנייה שלנו. נשבר לנו, תרימו את הגלים, תרימו את הראש ותחזרו הראש. של נתניהו, המדינה שלנו, של נתניהו.
I heard from far away a demonstration, what do you call hafganah. This sounded really loud. Now I've heard that for the past couple of months. Right after October 7th, they didn't have hafganot. I didn't have demonstrations. They started up again. Some are anti-government, anti-Bibi. Some are about new elections, and some are about the hostages. This was a little mixture of both. They're going apparently on summer break soon, so this one's like a big demonstration, very loud. They claimed 100,000 people. There was probably 10,000 people there. A couple of takeaways I had. First of all, Jews don't know how to demonstrate. That's number one. I mean, in Israel they do, but generally Jews don't know how to demonstrate. Even the far left, which you see like sort of the kids, the far left, the ones that are like anti-war, say, let's stop this war in Gaza, even the most far left are very, very respectful. In America, the far left is violent. They're nasty. They're spoiled. Here, the far left is respectful and decent. And once in a while, one or two people do things, and that gets in the news. But generally, you watch these demonstrations. That's number one. A lot of decent people overall. Number two, I noticed, because obviously there's a divide in Israel between the right and the left. The right is more religious, and they get together for holidays, for Shabbos, for religious gatherings all the time. Some 3 times a day, some only on Shabbos, some once in a while, but they're always getting together for religious experiences. The left doesn't have religion anymore. It has Israel, but it doesn't have religion anymore. It hasn't had it in a long time. But therefore, they don't have gatherings. Therefore, as a supplement to that, their spiritual religious gatherings are these demonstrations. And that's another reason that they happen. Obviously, they're expressing the frustration of the government. But where else could you get together, meet your friends, talk, be passionate, and repeat? Say things on repeat. Say words together and repeat. That's a religious experience. If you take away the religiosity of it, physically or humanly, that's the experience. Or psychologically, that's the experience. Okay. So that's what about those demonstrations. Now, there's actually an interesting theory about what happened, why the left is so upset. So obviously, they don't want Bibi in office. That's just a running theme. Part of the tragedy of October 7th is that there is no leadership in Israel. Unfortunately, it's very frustrating and sad to see. These demonstrations are full of passion. They're very, very painful to watch. I mean, it's a Jewish mother talking, it's like from her heart. It's like, whatever it is, it's just, I don't know all the Hebrew, but, it's just it's a very sad thing to see. It's not a very sad thing to see. It's a very difficult thing to watch. There's a couple of different things in Israel. There's the land of Israel, Medinas Yisrael. There's Torah Yisrael, which is the Bible, Torah. And then there's Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel. What has been happening over the past many, many decades, because the establishment in Israel was basically Ashkenazi Jews, secular Ashkenazi Jews, and they wanted to have this idea. They had this fantasy that they're going to create the state of Israel, similar to what they have in France and Russia and the England and America. They're going to have their country as well, and they're going to be able to sit in the coffee shops and sit in the parliaments of the world or in the meetings, whatever, of the world, and be a nation among nations. Therefore, they wanted to get rid of religion. And they wanted to have Israel to be recreated in their sort of like to have the Jew without the religion and make it more normal, the more accepted Jew, the normal Jew, something to that effect. But basically that was without any religion. But what happened in the past bunch of decades is that the religious part of Israel has co-opted them. They have taken over, the identity of being a Jew, Am Yisrael, the identity of what it means to be a Jew. They've taken over because they do it so much more passionately, and they do it, yes, having more children, they do it so much more passionately, so much more pronounced that they kind of took it over. They then took over Torah Yisrael, the Torah of Jude, they always had that, while the secular Jews are trying to kind of distancing themselves from it. And now there's a fight over Medinas Yisrael. Now there's a fight over the land of Israel. Now, the left is actually very hurt by what happened. The left, in other words, the secular core of Israel is very hurt by what happened because they saw this transition happening. Because how are you going to hold on to any of these things if you don't have tradition and if you're not tied into what your source is? I mean, many videos ago I spoke about this. Many video, I'm quoting myself. The way to heal is to connect to your source, but that's a whole different story. Over here, you have two different countries in Israel. You have one that was based out of Tel Aviv, secular Israel, and one you have based out of Jerusalem, which is religious Israel. The secular Israelis are hurt that they've lost sort of access. They've lost the narrative on Torah Israel and Am Yisrael. Now, what happens is Eretz Yisrael, the last thing is the land itself, and that's where the fight is over. And that's what's going on. Basically, that they're more in the anger towards the religious Jews, which they call Haredim or Haredim, whatever they call it. You could hear in that anger a lot of hurt as well, and there's a lot of misunderstanding also, and they just don't know each other really, which is a whole different story. You've got to bring the two countries within the country together. But that's sort of the idea that I heard, and I wanted to share that. This is a demonstration. It's hurt. It's not fun to see these demonstrations. I know they went on a lot last year, and they're going again. It's unfortunate. Part of the tragedy also is not really the war, again, what the smart people say, I'm quoting, sounds interesting, that the war is not really between Israel and Hamas, it's between it's within Israel itself, and any war with the outside is a reflection of that. Oh, now, there's a thing with the army that they want people from the religious community to go to the army. Some of them do, some of them don't. There's different arguments back and forth. I'm not going to even attempt to make that. I do know that the soldiers right now that are in Gaza, that are in the north, that are in the West Bank, that are anywhere, they're being appreciated more and more and more because you see the sacrifice they have for their lives. Some of them get killed. In the lowest of the low, in 1939, Europe was in the lowest of the bleak, but in the lowest of the low. But then you had Winston Churchill come up, FDR come up. New York was going to go to hell in the went broke in the 70s, and in the 80s was crime. So then you had Giuliani that came and revived the city. Within every disaster, within every down of life, but also of the world, you always have the future up. And while now we don't know what the future is going to be, we know the future leaders of Israel were born on October 7th, and we know that the future could be a lot better. Things are very challenged now in terms of security, but also in terms of leadership. Part of the tragedy of October 7th is the lack of leadership in Israel, and the division of Israel also. And it's an ongoing, and the things with the captives, it's an ongoing horror story that's just going on every day. But we hope from here, and the idea of being in Israel is a very optimistic idea. And we hope going from here, it will be that we will come, the future, like I said, the future leaders was born on October 7th, not literally, but idea-wise. And we hope that the future is positive, because even if you don't see it, there's always that possibility, because that's the nature and the way of the world.